Excuse me for my appearance again. I'm home, so like I said, I'm just taking time off, so I guess I can just relax or whatever. But this is it. Actually, I had to do another video here a lot sooner, I guess, than I actually anticipated because of the responses that I got from when I did the other video here regarding Thomas Sotomayor and black women. For the most part, some of the responses that I got, and with some of them I actually was sent a direct message, so I don't think those would actually appear in the comment thread on the YouTube channel or whatever. But some of the messages or responses that I got from that particular video were positive, and of course, and some of them again was negative. And I guess I would say I wouldn't be surprised because one thing that I can actually say for the most part, and I can say this in all honesty, is that YouTube, for the most part, teaches some people how to not think before they actually respond. I always say, and I've always been under the belief that it's always easy to kind of just, pick up or actually log onto your computer screen, turn on a video camera and start talking and just start talking about something just for the sake of just actually having something to say. But my whole purpose, anytime I actually get on YouTube or when I turn on the camera and want to actually speak about something, I always want to make sure that what I say is well planned and that I'm not emotional in what I'm talking about. I understand that we're human beings and that emotions is part of our, genetic makeup, if you will, I guess. But I can say that with a safe bet that YouTube, for the most part, teaches a lot of people how to not think and just react based on emotion. The responses that I get, now, of course, I can't really read them all because, again, I would be here for the most part just for a little while reading responses, but I'm going to bypass that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, focus on one of the negative comments that I was given when I actually posted that video regarding Tommy Sotomayor and black women. And pretty much to sum that response up, and I don't name names because I'm not that way, but I will say pretty much the content of what was said. Well, for the most part, according to this person's rationale, they figured that the only reason why they actually feel the need to continually engage in a conversation with Tommy Sotomayor is because they don't want to give, or she does not want to give Tommy Sotomayor the impression that she's weak and that, she will be silenced, so to speak. And that, being quiet is a sign of being weak. Now, in any ordinary or any other circumstances, I will actually see where she's coming from. I guess it's situation based, but you have to really look at how this actually fits into the situation and pretty much how this actually what this actually does and how this particular rationale, how it fits into the situation to make you seem a bit, and I don't want to say uneducated, but your tactic is not as, I guess, is not as productive as you would think or would have others to think. One thing that I've actually read, actually in a sense when growing up, one thing is that somebody has to actually show a level of maturity when you're actually dealing with folks who actually like to just spout things and just say things just for the sake of talking. Because when you sit there and really continue to listen to that garbage or whatever it is that they're talking about, you'll start to really see that they are on here posting things just for shock value. And one thing about it is that there has to be a maturity. There has to be some sort of maturity level when you're dealing with certain people such as Tommy Sotomayor. Like I say, I'm not saying that he's a bad person. I'm not saying that he's, the most foul human being to ever exist. I'm not saying that. But there is a method to how to deal with those type of people. And the method that is very useful is just not to engage from the very beginning. What most people do, as I think I stated in, or if I didn't state it in that other video, I'll state it now. Most people, what they tend to do is that if they're solid in what they're saying and they know it to be true, and and they're confident in their message, they just state their case and they move on. And they don't really care what type of response would be given after, whatever else is said. Now, for the sake of actually not saying that you want to be perceived as being weak, that sort of thing, the fact that you're actually engaging him and continuing to engage him actually shows a sign of weakness. That's just my personal opinion. When I am confident in what I'm saying, and I've actually know that, in my opinion, that I've proved my point, whether it falls on deaf ears, whether it, has a response where they're ridiculing and belittling me, to me, it doesn't matter anymore, because pretty much I've done my duty for the day. I've contributed to my part of what I want to say. And I said it, and I presented what I have. I wasn't disrespectful. I wasn't emotional, and I dealt with it in a mature manner. I've dealt with it, and I moved on. That's a sign of actually dealing with someone, on a mature level. See, one thing about it is that in this particular issue, ignorance is returning ignorance. Foolishness is returning foolishness. The more you sit there and try to prove somebody's wrong, the more they are validated in their stance, because you are getting over emotional. And each and every time he says something in a video or responds to you, you get like a new level of emotion. And it's building up and it's building up now to the fact that now it doesn't matter. You have just two people who are just irrational. And the cycle continues and continues and continues until somebody hopefully grows up and says, you know what? This fella here is not going to really change his views. Not that I'm trying to make him change, but you know what? It would just be best just to let him be. Sometimes you actually have to do that with folks. And like I say, I know that more than most people think. With some folks, you just have to let them be. You have to let them, figure out the error of their own ways. You can sit there and take the truth or take your observation or rationale to someone, but that doesn't mean that they have to buy into what you're saying, because they are free, sovereign individuals to think and act as they will, just like you. Okay, see, I'm talking on a mature level now. I'm not talking with all that foolishness, okay? Because one thing about it is that we have a lot of women these days who are so adamant in that they don't want to be perceived as being weak, that they will sit there and make complete fools of themselves, engaging in someone who really does not have an interest in them. All they do is all he does is he sit there and he has a one-track view, for the most part, on how he views black women. For the most part, because sometimes he can, again, deliver some things that are very thought-provoking. I love those type of videos. All this other stuff about hair hat and beasties and all this other type of stuff, I kind of like to throw that aside, because we're not really zeroing in. All we're talking about now is emotion. And when you're talking about trying to change someone or trying to get to someone on a human level, on a mature level, when they're already emotional, you're not going to be able to do it, because number one, rationale, clear thinking is not even in the picture. It's not even an element in the conversation. So you're not going to really be able to zero in on what is going on and what the true reason why he feels the way that he feels. I mean, again, and what it doesn't really help the matter that you have, everybody under the sun chiming in to really deliver the same message. And see, one thing about it, again, he can count on his popularity on YouTube, because he know that you will have women who will not be silenced, figure that being, silent is a sign of being weak. Those two issues right there, I think those are really the bread and butter of his income. He can count on those type of women, because he already know that you're going to keep coming back. You're going to keep coming back. You're going to keep coming back and engaging, and really not really adding any type of new communication to an old argument. He is from, and I don't know if he always thought that way about women or whatever else, but like I said, it's something else when all you do is make your living off of unfavorable observations of the opposite sex. And that, and like I said, I guess, and to me, honestly, it's a sign of desperation, because again, money can change folks. It can change a person from a saint to a devil in a heartbeat. Because again, you can sit there and like I say, and knowing that fact, that he's become a star, he has a little income generated on YouTube, he's going to say whatever it is that he has to say to maintain what he has, or to even get more. And see, what rational people do, those who can think is that, okay, what else is he going to do next? You know what? I'm going to stop and quit while I'm ahead, because I don't want to sit there and watch his demise. Because my honest belief, it doesn't matter how prosperous someone, the way it looks like they're getting away, where it looks like they're becoming prosperous at the expense of someone else, it's only an illusion. Because guess what? There's a stopping point for everything. I don't care what anybody says. There is a stopping point. So what most people will do is just state their case and move on and not really care about what someone else has to say. But see, we as African Americans, black folk, we want to have the last word, whether it be with a fellow black person or with someone of a different race. We don't want to be outdone. We don't want to, be left incomplete, so to speak. We want to make this argument complete by having the last word. And you already know that he's dogmatic in everything that he says. He's not going to let you win. So you know what? I'll step back and say, you know what? I'll let you have it. If this YouTube thing is that important to you, which is sad in itself, I will back away and let you have it, because it's not worth me and my sanity and my intelligence. See, one thing about it is that when folks come to you with their ignorance, you need to really be able to respond back with your intelligence. And that's not what's being done in these particular issues when you're talking about someone of that caliber. When I go back and view videos and I look at comments and everything, of how people respond to him, they don't give him intelligence. They give him back the same ignorance that he gave them. So guess what? Ignorance begets ignorance, and nobody's really coming off with a clear understanding or a logical common sense understanding of, you know what? Even though we may agree or disagree, we're just going to have to agree to disagree. It doesn't mean that I take away from what you're doing. I don't think any less of you as a person, but I just don't agree with your views. And you support your argument in a logical way, leave all the name calling and all that type of stuff out because it's not necessary, and state your case and move about. But you have black women, most of them, that will not allow that to be done because they feel that, he's disrespecting, and that it shouldn't be that way. He needs to learn how to embrace his sister and stuff like that. I agree with all of that. Don't get me wrong. I agree with everything that you're saying, and I, in a sense, can understand your rationale. But one thing about it is that when you have to learn how to sometimes just to be quiet. You just have to learn to say, you know what? As painful as it is to let me be quiet and walk away, I'm going to have to do that because somebody has to be the bigger person. As I stated before in the last video, the best way that you can get back at somebody is to get them in the pockets. I'm not saying, launch a boycott for everybody to stop watching his videos or get them shut down, because I've sat there and seen this all tried to be done before. But you know what? It doesn't work because he comes up with another channel and all this other type of stuff. It's an ongoing cycle. So with that, you already know that you're fighting something that really is not even worth the fight. One thing about it is that when folks get in their head and get some way of thinking about this thing, to use some kind of common sense and logic about it, they'll know how to go about it and know how to go about it in an intelligent manner. And you know what? They won't have to demean themselves in the process. The only thing that I see here again is that people are acting like children. We black folks are acting like children here on YouTube. And one thing about it is that it's entertaining in a sense, but yet still it's sad and it's scary also in another sense, because we don't know how low we're going to go in order to get that last word in. We've already witnessed, again, those, who had their lives threatened. Those people who actually had their lives taken from them, due to what? People stalking them and all this type of stuff. I don't know. Y'all remember the Asia McGowan situation where that fella, he was stalking this girl, very talented young lady, and killed her, and stuff like this. And like I said, I'm pretty sure this fella here, Thomas Moore, he get death threats probably by the thousands, and it's gotten to the point where he's immune to them. Now he's used to them. But like I say, these type of things really should not even be, because again, YouTube is not even that serious, folks. All it is just a site used to express different ideas, different philosophies, create a brand or whatever the case may be, whatever brand you want. I mean, that's what it's all about. But one thing about it is that we take things too seriously. We want to be seen as always being right. We don't want to actually have a difference of opinion. We don't want to actually have anybody who thinks in a different pattern that we do. We want us to be, I guess, the cookie cutter race where everybody has to be the same. And it's not that way. We are a diverse folk, physically and intellectually. And what I'm starting to see is that most black women, they're not getting that. Because if they did get it, they wouldn't be going back exchanging video insults after video insults, leaving these derogatory comments and everything like that. And like I say, and it's not only the women, you have some of the men too that, fall along the same line of this type of thinking as well. And like I say, they perpetrate the same type of behavior. So like I say, it's just something, a line has to be drawn, a standard has to be raised. And really, until that standard is actually raised, you're going to continue to see this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth garbage and it doesn't even accomplish anything. I was expecting, to get some negative comments. Like I say, it doesn't bother me. I'm still, the same person that I was before I made the video, and I'm going to still be the same person after the video. So really, it doesn't really bother me that I have folks who really don't see the situation from the way that I see it. I look at that as something good. I look at it as a challenge. That means that, I have to further, educate. And I like to teach. I like to talk. But see, one thing about it is that there has to come a time when you have to put old stuff away and start on a new thing. And one thing about it is that until we actually get on this new thing, you're going to continue to see Tommy Sotomayor clowning these same individuals, clowning them. I mean, and like I said, you know what? And in his way of thinking, he's justified in doing so. Why? Because you are foolish enough to comment on something that he already knows that he could be just grabbing at straws at, but he already knows that you're going to actually comment on and get emotional about. And we know one thing about black women, for the most part, most of them, they are very emotional beings. Women in general are very emotional, but you have that selective population of black women who are so emotional that they will make an ass out of themselves for all the world to see. And that is a shame to the African American makeup. All right? That's all that I have for now. Peace out.